the goals of an instructor, and there's different time frames of those goals. So there's like the 3-month time frame, and then there's the 5-year time frame, and then there's the lifetime time frame, and those are broad goals, right? But there's this concept of lifelong learning, and I do consider that to be a very important concept, that we are able to like trigger students to be interested in the world around them. One thing that I get really frustrated with is that there's not, I want to see, for me, I want to see a more focused idea on strategies in lifelong learning, because life, in theory and practice are the same, but in practice they're different. The idea of just like the joy of learning, I think, is really important, but many of our students have real world constraints, and there are real world problems that are policy problems that actually have bad implications for students' lives, right? And in order for us to move past those as a society, we need talented students who want to solve those problems and then take those problems on, right? And so one of the things that I think a lot about is, one, how do you inspire students to feel motivated to do that? And then two, how do you empower them? And there's this contradiction. There's this really funny, The Black Swan by Nassim Taleb is this concept that nobody knows anything. And a good example of this is the coronavirus, right? So like the best experts in the world don't know shit, right? Right? And you'll see a lot of people get mad because they'll make these predictions and then they're wrong. Well, of course they're wrong. They don't know shit about it, right? Like the reason that they're right in so many other spaces is not because they know what the future holds, but because they've studied something in the past and it just so happens that thing shows up again. And then they're like, okay, from past explanation, we know this is going to happen. And then it happens again. But that's not because they're soothsayers or whatever. It's just because the new context fits into an old model. But one of the things that's really interesting about historical context is that there are a whole bunch of things in life that show up in the future based on the past. And so there is value to becoming an expert, because if you're an expert in a certain thing and then something new shows up and it fits into that thing that you're an expert on, you can leverage that. But there's a whole bunch of other shit that happens in life that is brand new. Like nobody knows the answer to it. And in fact, I would claim that most of life is in that category. Right? And one way that I used to say this in a short sentence is, school professes to get students ready for the future. But the way that it does that is it teaches answers and theory that solve problems of the past. Moreover, most of the teachers don't have a fucking clue what's going to happen in 2 months, let alone 15 years. And they don't have a vested interest in solving the futures, the problems of the past, because they're being paid for the solutions that they did in their own area. They don't have a vested interest in solving the problems of the future because their current paycheck actually is based on solutions of the past, right? And so you have a system of education designed to get the next generations of students ready. But that system is all backward looking. And all of the intuition, all of the strategies, all of the motivation, all of the impetus of that system is designed to center knowledge in the past. And so when a student actually ends up being forward looking, when a student ends up saying like, these are the things that I want to talk about, that system isn't really designed in the way that it's structured to solve that problem. And what we end up doing is like, okay, yeah, that problem is climate change, for example. Like experts don't have a fucking clue. We know that there's a trend, but they don't know what's going to happen. Like they don't know if it's going to be 2 degrees or 10 degrees or 60 degrees, right? And a lot of students are interested in solving that problem, but this apparatus of the entire institutions have not caught up, are not designed to train students to do that, right?